Hey guys, how's it going? I hope you all are doing great. I'm in the windy city of Chicago just getting ready to teach an NASM CPT workshop. As you can see, all the stability balls around me. I'm really excited about that. I just wanted to post a quick video though on the function of the IT band and TFL, and more specifically how those two structures influence human movement, particularly the overhead squat assessment. Okay, the TFL and IT band complex is misunderstood sometimes because it functions differently depending on whether you're doing a closed chain movement pattern or an open chain movement pattern. And that's where the confusion arises, okay? If you look in your textbook under the function of the TFL, it's going to list it as a hip flexor, a hip internal rotator, a hip abductor, is moving the leg further from the midline. Okay, but if you were to look at the overhead squat compensations table, under knees adducting, caving in, it's going to list the TFL and IT band as probable overactive muscles. Well, how can it do both things? Well, that's because when the foot is off the ground, it does one thing. When the foot's on the ground, it does the other. And it all has to do with where the TFL and IT band attach. The TFL, I've got a piece of tubing wrapped around my waist here, and then I've got it also wrapped around my lower leg. This piece of purple tubing is representative of the TFL and IT band complex. So the TFL runs right down the anterior lateral part of the thigh, upper leg, and then it attaches to the IT band. The IT band runs down the lateral part of the leg, crosses the knee joint, and actually inserts into the tibia. Okay, and then it bleeds into the patelloretinaculum and the pes anserine complex on the medial side of the knee. So because the TFL and IT band cross the knee joint, it will function differently depending on if the foot is on the floor or off the floor. So when my foot is off the floor, if these two segments try to get closer together when the muscle contracts, it's just going to lift my leg away from the midline of my body because it attaches to my tibia. Okay, so since my foot's off the ground, it's pretty easy for that to take place. But if I keep my foot fixed, there's a joint that lies between the tibia and the hip, and that's the knee joint, okay? And the knee is a pretty dumb joint. It's gonna do whatever the foot and ankle or the lower leg and the hip tell it to do. So if I'm doing a squat and my TFL is tight and my IT band is tight and overactive, as I go to squat down, it's going to try and pull its two attachment points closer to each other. All right, so we just demonstrated how that would happen if my foot was off the ground. The leg would just move out to the side, okay? But if my foot's on the ground, as I squat, my knee flexes, because it attaches to the outside of my knee, the IT band attaches to the outside of my knee, it's basically going to force my knee to move in an attempt to bring my lower leg closer to my hip. All right, so if we look at my lower leg, my foot's going to turn out, my knee's going to cave in. That looks very similar to if it was just going to pull my foot off the ground like this. So since we don't squat and the foot doesn't come off the ground like this, as I keep my foot planted on the floor, it's just going to cause the knee to adduct and the lower leg to abduct because that's where it attaches. Okay, so that's how the TFL and IT band can cause two different things to happen, depending on if it's closed chain or open chain. Open chain, abduction is going to take place and the leg's going to move further away from the midline. But keep in mind, it attaches to the lower leg. So when my foot's on the floor and my lower leg really can't move, then the segment between the two attachment points has to move in the opposite direction. So my knee is going to go in, my lower leg's going to turn out in an attempt to abduct. But since my foot's on the floor, it can't really abduct all that well. So that's how we get that compensation of knee going in, lower leg turning out. So the TFL and IT band, when you're looking at it from a programming perspective, foam rolling those two structures and then stretching the TFL, you can make a big difference in 3 of the 5 kinetic chain checkpoints. Because if the TFL is tight and the IT band is tight, it can cause the low back to arch, it's going to cause the knee to cave in, and it will cause the lower leg and foot to turn out potentially. So those are 3 of the 5 kinetic chain checkpoints that you can influence with your flexibility program either with foam rolling and or static stretching. And so you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck there by focusing on those two structures. So I hope this clarifies some things as it relates to the TFL and IT band. So depending on whether it's open chain or closed chain, that will dictate what the leg does. Okay, open chain, the leg does what the textbook says it does, and that's going to be to AB duct. Closed chain, since the lower leg can't AB duct, it's going to cause the knee, or the thigh rather, to AD duct. Okay, so one segment's adducting, then the lower leg in this case is doing the opposite, and that's AB ducting. All right. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the class lounge about the TFL and IT band or in the Module 3 discussion. I hope this helped clear some things up though. Hope you all are doing great like I said before, and I'll see you in class.